we all came from Africa. We
Mhm.
started going all around. And so if given the chance to go to Mars, I mean, heck yeah, why not? Why wouldn't you go?
Yeah.
What do
And
you have to lose? I mean, what a chance to explore. What a chance to educate yourself. What a chance to know.
Hey, welcome to a new episode of Podcast with Abhash. And as usual, we have new guests today. And if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please do click the subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. All those information can be found in the description below. And for our guest, we have a very special guest today. We have a guest who is well-renowned in the scientific world, in the planetary world, in an interesting way. He has discovered water on Mars as a scientific proof discovery. He is Mr. Lujendra Ojha. Hello, Mr. Ojha. Welcome to our podcast.
Hey, how are you, man?
All good, all good. So, let me
Thank you
just
for
tell you,
having me here.
I saw you on the first time I saw you was on the I think it was in one of the article or YouTube video that somebody have discovered water on Mars. So for the first thing, I was like, hasn't it already been discovered? And why is this a new news? And when I saw, it's like, wait a moment, he's Nepali, Lujendra Ojha, and that was like, wait, what's going on here? So can you just tell me, like, what did you actually accomplish in that research?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating, right? In the scientific world, one of the most quintessential, one of the most profound thing that we can think about or talk about is, if there was life somewhere else in the universe. And the quest for finding a life elsewhere in the universe has always been to find other places in the universe that may have had water in the past or may have water right now in the present. If you think about the entire solar system, right, we have about 8 planets in the solar system. And lo and behold, only one of the planet actually has water. That is Earth, right? And so there's rest of these planets, and none of these other planets actually has water on the surface. Mars, if you look at the history of Mars, like what I do, what a lot of my friends do, we look at the history of Mars through geological timescale. There's a reason to believe that Mars had a lot of water back in the day. Like when I say back in the day, I'm talking about 4 billion years ago. But in the present day, besides Earth, Venus does not have any water, Mercury does not have any water, and Mars may be the only planet that has even the remote possibility of having water. And so when I was an undergrad, I was really into science fiction, science, and the idea of time machine, like everything to do with science. And I started working for the most powerful camera that had ever been developed at that time. And that was the camera was operating through my university. And so, just through innate curiosity, I said, I want to work for this. I mean, what a great opportunity. Like this guy from Nepal just moved into the United States. And here's a, chance for this guy, like this random guy to work in like some NASA sponsored, like the most amazing camera. And I started working for that. And we sort of seeing these features that really kind of look like water, like how water would behave on Mars. And that was really the really surprising thing. Like, there's no surprise that there was water on Mars. Like that's known for ages and ages and
Yeah,
ages.
there's a lot of frozen
Some
water.
amount of water on Mars
That's been
back in the
one
day.
long time, right?
Yeah, but does water flow in Mars right now? That was the only thing, and like that was my work. Is is there water flowing in present day Mars? And we think it is. But we're not really sure. And unless we actually go there and verify, that's how science works, right? I mean, science is all about complete verification. We don't have the complete verification, but we think that there is. But yeah, until we go there, we're not gonna really know.
So, with your paper, for what you were renowned for, and with your paper, what did you actually, what information did you actually give?
Yeah, so the paper and a lot of the work. So So remember this. I mean, I was an undergrad, right? I was a 19-year-old, 20-year-old when I first started doing this work. I had no freaking idea what I was doing, man. I mean, I was just an undergrad. You know, what are
Okay.
people doing when they're 18, 19? You know, we're just hanging out, you know. And lo and behold, that I happened to run into this shit. And then I had absolutely no freaking idea what I was doing.
So
I saw
what
something
shit was that?
intriguing.
You just said you ran into something.
Yeah, so it's called RSL. Like recurring slope linear is a name, and like the abbreviation is RSL. So if anyone hasn't seen these features, these infamous features in Mars that are called RSL, so anyone can go on Google right now, type RSL on Mars, and they'll see it. And you know, it behaves like water. It looks like water. These are these seasonal features that occur on Mars every once in a while. And you know, when we first saw these features, right? I mean, it's like you go to a new planet. So imagine this: I mean, you're going to Mars for first of all, right?
Hmm.
Here's this planet that is millions and millions and millions of miles away, and then you're going there with the most powerful camera that we have ever invented.
So what camera was that?
So this is the high-res camera.
High-res
So if
camera.
you think about the Google camera, right?
Huh?
The Google Earth camera, it is much powerful than Google camera. So the way that we can see Mars right now with the high-res camera is order of magnitude better than what you can do with Google Earth camera.
Okay.
Um,
So this was
if there,
under your university, right? So
yeah, so this is running through University of Arizona. It's still
okay.
running. It was launched back in 2005. It takes about 6 months to go to Mars. And so once it was launched, it took about 6 months, almost about 9 months from Earth to get to Mars. And then when it got into Mars, it started going around Mars, much like much of our satellite, like your
Okay.
communication
Around the Mars
satellite.
orbit.
Yeah, and we have terabytes of data, and so I mean one of the most fascinating things is that we can't even do this, you know. And then we have terabytes of data, and in that terabytes of data, there was there were pictures, there were
So
images of these
all of those
features.
terabytes and terabytes of data were basically the camera itself taking pictures and sending it out to your to the server.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So what happens is that on Earth there are what's called like the deep space network. So
Mhm.
there are deep space network in Spain, in Argentina, in Brazil. So like basically there's these communication satellites, kind of like an antenna like that you have for your like TV. Like we were brought up in Nepal. So you remember back in Nepal there were these like big satellite dishes that we would
Yeah.
install in our roof to get the signal. So it's the same thing, but like it's installed everywhere around the world. So as the Earth rotates, doesn't matter whether it's daytime or nighttime, if there's being data being telecasted from Mars, Moon, or other planets, you're always collecting that data.
Hmm.
And so that's how we collect data. And we have these satellites going around Mars. We have satellites going around Moon. I mean, the Chinese have satellites going around Moon. The Indians have a satellite going on Mars called Mangalyaan, sorry.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that's what we do, and that's how we collect all these terabytes and terabytes of data. And then we don't have to go there, right? But we have all the data that we need to really understand these foreign worlds. And if you think about it, like the bottom of the ocean, I just came back from the beach, so I might look a little bit tan, or maybe I don't. But we know much more about Mars. We know much, 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 much more about the moon than we actually know about even our ocean floor. That's
Yeah.
how much data we have from these worlds, right? Um, and it just happened to be that when I was an undergrad, I happened to be working for one of these cameras, and accidentally I had to stumble upon something that was really kind of crazy. And we think it's water on Mars, but I mean, who the heck knows, right? I mean,
So
unless you go
so
there and
basically
really
you were
verify that it's water.
yeah. So basically you were in charge of like you were in charge, or you were assigned to look through the pictures and try to find some anomalies, or did you just stumble upon it?
Yeah, so I was an undergrad researcher. So like like we have a
Okay.
lot of like Nepalese people in United States, studying in their undergrad degree, and you can always sign up for these sort of what's called like independent research. So if
Okay.
you're in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics degree, right, uh, you can sign up for these classes where you get credit for doing scientific research.
Oh, that's good.
And so that's what I was doing. I was getting college credit for doing scientific research. And it just happened to be that my scientific research turned into these uh, pretty well known discovery. That's
Okay.
it. But anyone can do it.
So you basically you found some anomaly, and
Right.
like, did you know what it was, or just did you have to go through the entire somebody more like intellectually who have idea on it? Like, how did that process go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I had no idea what the hell I was looking at, and we still don't. I mean, for just to be clear, we still have no freaking idea what the hell these guys, what these guys are. We call them recurring slope lineae. We think this is like the best evidence of water flowing on Mars. Well, we have absolutely no idea, and we're still like there's a complete, when you think about the scientific world, when you like, so I have this like a NASA hat, right? Every year, um, in April, we have this thing called Lunar Planetary Science Conference. It is this massive meeting of about what, like 4,000 space scientists, like geologists, planetary scientists, astrophysicists, congregating together to figure out what the hell is going on with different planets. And we still have no idea. After the discovery of these features happened in 2009, 2010, and we still have no idea what they really are. Uh, so we think that it's, the best evidence that we have is that it's some sort of flowing water, but that's about it. We still are not sure if it's actually flowing water or something else. The
Yeah.
closest thing that we think is it's flowing water, but we have no idea. But when I discovered, like when I came up on this feature, I had no idea. I was second year in my undergrad degree. At that time, I was I was an undergrad in physics and astronomy and geosciences. So I was trying to get like a triple degree. And
Oh, triple degree. You already became way smarter than what I thought you were.
well, I was just trying to pass time. But yeah, I saw these features, and then I went to my undergrad advisor and I said, I have no idea what the hell these things are. But to answer you, like, yeah, we had no idea what it was then, and we still don't know what it is now.
Mhm.
But I think this is the most amazing thing about discovery is that you discover stuff, and sometimes you don't know what it is, and it's going to take 10 years, 20 years of research to actually figure out what
Yeah,
you're looking at.
that's definitely how scientific research works. It's not just like, oh, we found something and it's published. It just takes a lot of actual verification. And when you started, once you stumbled upon those information, you went to your advisor. And when did that turn out to be actual? Like, okay, this is something really new, and this should be published around the world. And you had a lot of. When did it start to become public?
I think within 6 months or so. I mean, we knew it was something special. It was something new.
Mhm.
And we published the article, I think, after 6 months after the discovery. And then, it took the scientific world by the storm. A lot of people read the article. A lot of people, were like intrigued by the idea of water. But the thing is that, I think it was also kind of like overinflated.
Mhm.
When you think about Mars, it's a planet that has a lot of water.
Mhm.
Mars has polar caps, much like Earth does. So it has the South Polar Cap, the North Polar Cap. If you think about Earth, Earth has a North Polar Cap, South Polar Cap, right? And it has a lot of water, but it's just that all the water is in the form of ice. When you think of Mars, it's exactly the same goddamn thing. It's not that Mars does not have water. Mars has a shit ton of water. It's just that all the water that we can find on Mars is in the form of ice.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, and I think what's been kind of like mind-blowing for a lot of people is that, there's a possibility of water being in a liquid form. There's absolutely no debate. There's absolutely no debate that there's water on Mars. There's shit ton of water on Mars. Okay. The debate, the question is whether water can exist in a liquid form. That's the only thing. That's the major thing that we're talking about.
Yeah. So when we even talk about Mars, the atmosphere there, like I think Mars has an atmosphere, but it's like super light, right?
Yeah, so Mars has an atmosphere about 6 millibars. So if you think about Earth is about 1 bar. So uh, to people who are not familiar with that unit, what that means is that if Earth has 1,000 atmosphere, Mars has 1 atmosphere. Okay? So the atmosphere is much, much, much thinner. That's it. But Mars does have an atmosphere.
So when with such a less atmosphere, just imagining like we know like in the top of the Everest, the water boils super fast, and you don't get it in the liquid form. So it's harder to get it in a liquid form than it vaporizes. Same with the Mars. So a lot of the water might be ice. So anytime there's some kind of heat, it might turn into evaporation. But once it evaporates, or there might be I almost think like there's the water is there somewhere in the liquid form, as you found out in your research. It might be under the surface or somewhat, but like proving that is the hardest part, being such far away.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, yeah, you nailed it, right? I mean, there's water in the atmosphere. Like Mars has an atmosphere. We actually see clouds, much like on Earth. Like whenever you go outside, you see like white clouds. We've seen clouds on Mars, so we know that there's water clouds on Mars. No problem. We've seen ice. You can just type on Google, like people who are listening right now, you can just say North Polar Cap of Mars or South Polar Cap of Mars, and you'll see these polar caps of Mars, and there's so much water, and not only water, but also carbon dioxide. On Earth, CO2, carbon dioxide, is mostly in form of gas, right? But the temperature on Mars can go down so much that CO2 from the atmosphere can condense into an ice form, and you can have like polar caps made of CO2. So you have CO2 ice, dry ice. If you've ever been to a concert, right? If you've ever been to a rave or like a EDM concert, they always have like dry
foggy,
ice. Yeah, exactly. That's
okay.
Right? That's CO2 ice. But on Earth, it's very hard to find any place where these CO2 ice can, exist in a natural form. Right. And you can go to like a Safeway or like, I don't know, like one of these grocery stores and you can find them. But on Mars, that exists in that sort of like solid form. Now, the problem, like you said, like you alluded to earlier, is sure. So water, liquid water, H2O, can exist on Mars in a gas form, in a solid form. But the question is, can they exist as a liquid form, like in your liquid water? And that's been the thing. And, it's either one of the ways that we think that it can exist is if you put a lot of salt, right? So sodium chloride, for example, your complete like table salt, the same salt that you use in your food, NaCl, or like maybe it's magnesium chloride. It's just like a bunch of like cations and anions like merging together. When you mix those with water, what can happen is that on Earth, water freezes at about 0 degrees Celsius, right? 0 degrees Celsius, or in America, we would say 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if you take the same block of ice with a bunch of salt, like these exotic salts, such as like perchlorates, right? Which is chlorine and oxygen mixed with some cation, you take it on Earth, they can remain in liquid form until negative 74, negative 80 degrees Celsius. So think about this. On Earth, normally when you see pure water, it freezes at about 0 degrees Celsius. Now you add these salts in proper concentration, and then this water can remain in a liquid form until negative 80 degrees Celsius, right? And so this is one of the ways we can have liquid water on Mars, is just put shit ton of salt in the water. And you make super salty water, kind of like your ocean water. Your ocean water, like I'm right next to Myrtle Beach right now. The water in Myrtle Beach has so much salt that, it doesn't freeze at 0 degrees Celsius, but it's more like -3, -5 degrees Celsius when it actually starts freezing.
Because of the salt over in the sea. Yeah, I've heard about like in other planets, say the moon of Jupiter, the Titans, or other. There are water and so on, but there are many planets where the liquid iron falls as a rain. So the atmosphere in all of the different planets around the world, around the universe, is completely different than what we think as a normal in our like Earth. And when you find out all of those chemistry like configurations of some water with mixed with chlorine, you might actually find it in liquid form, as you said. And maybe there are so many different kind of mixtures around different planets. We have no idea how the water or any other forms, or other elements might be present in, and that is like a whole area of research that's still yet to be discovered.
Right.
And like after you published those, and it kind of went on the newspaper, and it started blowing up around the world with the news like water discovered on Mars and so on. How did your perception of like what you were going for triple major, as you said, how did your career, how did the educational structure of where you wanted to be change? Did it impact you on where you wanted to be, or did you have a pre-planned stuff out already?
I think it's in some way it did, right? I mean, it was, you know, um, so in Nepal, there's this like phrase, right? Like so to paraphrase in English, it's like give someone who's never had like a rice pudding and give them a hot rice pudding, and they're gonna eat it like they're gonna destroy themselves. So like basically you give someone who has never had anything, and you give them some sort of like infamousy, like popular, like being popular overnight, they're gonna eat that up, right?
Mhm.
And so I don't know. Like, it was one of those weird things where, until 2007, 2008, like, my dad's a scientist, right? He's kind of like well known in Nepal for his scientific stuff, and
And
I would,
can we have his name as well? I know you said your family has a history of a lot of
yeah.
scholars.
So my dad's name is Tank, like an actual tank,
Oh, that's cool.
and last name is Ojha, like just like mine. Um,
Oh, he beats your name in the cool name.
Oh, absolutely, man. He beats me in every standard of being coolness. He's like 6'5". So if you like in a word for Nepal, like how
Okay.
many people have you seen that are 6'5"?
Best
And so
volleyball players maybe, but that's like so rare.
yeah, I know exactly. So like every time he would come to school, I went to this like super private school in Nepal in Kathmandu, Galaxy. It was a shithole of a school, but they charge you a shit ton of money and they think
Yeah.
they're fucking greatest, but that doesn't matter. But anyways, and so like my dad would come to school and everyone would think like my dad is like the greatest guy because he's like super tall dude, like this cool dude that's a geologist that you would see a picture of him like smoking a cigarette up in the Himalayas. He just looked like a cool guy. And so like he had all the scientific pedigree, he had all the like adventure, he was like Indiana Jones, if you will. And then I was like, nah, like I'm just like a normal guy. And then all that shit happened, and then all of a sudden like I'm in the spotlight, and it was interesting because like I think I had like kind of like one of those like profound moment in my life where I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with this? There is a chance where I can be the voice for Nepalese people, people that have been abstain for education for a variety of reasons, from like caste system to like
Mhm.
racism to like religious whatever, or I could just be anonymous and not say anything about this and just live my life because why not?
Mhm.
And it was a very weird thing because even like, and I go back to Nepal all the time with my dad, and I don't I never say that I'm back in Nepal or anything, but my dad like likes to like talk about, oh, my son's here, I used to talk to him. And then we would go to like places like Doti, for example, Sutu Pasimanchal, like in
Mhm.
super far west of Nepal.
Like a
And
rural
then
rural
from
part of it.
there, and they have absolutely no idea what I did. They
Mhm.
said, hey, you're a Nepalese person that did something about moon or Mars, or we're not really sure, but you're that Nepalese guy, right? You did that thing. So I feel like it was a very weird thing, and like I didn't know what to do, and I still don't know what to do, and I try to be anonymous most of the time. But sometimes I feel like I should have done more. But when that entire thing happened, my life changed in a way that I had this existential crisis where I am responsible for making sure that the next generation of Nepalese people see me as, hey, I mean, you could be from the slums of Nepal or from like the prestigious family of Nepal. It doesn't matter. Like you can do some stuff,
Yeah.
but
I, I almost feel like you are a researcher, you are a scientist. You started up like being educated. You came to United States and you went up to discover something. You never asked to represent all the youth. Be like, I'm the youth leader, and I want all of the youth. I want to be example and have others to follow me in my direction, which you want.
right,
But you didn't ask for it. Made a research and people chose you, which is a good and bad way for you in that sense. Like it kind of distracts you from pursuing what you are, and it kind of puts you in a pedestal for others to be an example. So if you want to do something, you are like, not only you think of yourself, but also you think of others. Like, would others judge me for like what I'm doing? Because everybody's like they pretty much like whoever is in scientific community in Nepal, when they say they want to pursue further education, taking you an example and saying like, I want to be like Mr. Lujendra Ojha. I want to make a discovery around the space, science, whatever their field is. So they kind of put you in an icon level in
right,
some one way or another. But
right,
there is that a light of hope for them, is like there is someone who is like us, who is representing, who has done a great discovery, and we want to be that. But for you,
right,
I almost feel like you're like, I'm just doing my job. Maybe I
yeah,
should, maybe I don't.
right. I mean, for me, it's just like, dude. I mean, I'm not, I'm not like a inspirational figure. I'm just a guy who's like doing his shit, and like I just happen to be lucky, and I'm just glad to be where I am. I mean, you know, I'm not an inspirational figure. I mean, I'm just a regular guy just doing his
you're
shit.
you're a really
you
modest
know,
guy for sure. And
yeah,
now,
like,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think like most of us, like like most people in the world, they're modest. Like they're just doing their job, and
Mhm.
that's what happened. And like I used to get like these emails from people from Nepal saying, "Hey, I'm applying to like XYZ in college in Australia or UK or like America for like astronomy or planetary. What should I do?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't know. I mean, I just got my undergrad." Like now I'm a professor. Like if someone were to email me now, I could be like, yo, dude, like go take a GRE, like, or like, screw GRE, just like do research or whatnot. But you're at that time, like, I was like 21-year-old guy, and people were asking me, like, what should I do with my life? And I'm like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing. What do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, that's you found your way, but you're not like, you are in no position to say somebody you should follow this way or that way, because that's not you.
No, I mean, I was always a rebel. I mean, I was taught to like follow rules and like do this and that, like being brought up in Nepal, I was expected to be like a Hindu and like religious. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I paved my own way. I said like, no, screw that.
Mm.
I'm not gonna listen to anyone's religious teaching. I'm gonna find my own way, and I found my own way, and I think I'm happy, and I think I will not burn in hell. But I mean, I think that's what everyone should do. Like everyone should find their own fucking way. I mean,
Yeah,
you can't expect me to like tell you what to do with your life. I mean,
but
and so I think that was the thing. And like, but at the same time, I kind of feel bad because some of these people like, and like most of us, I mean, we're just trying to find our way in life. And how good would it be if there was like someone in power or like someone who had figured out the way that could tell you, oh yeah, you got to follow this recipe, then you'll be at the right place at the right time and you're going to be successful. I
yeah,
can't do
almost
that.
like yeah, like having you be successful. So you are currently a professor in which wait, I forgot the university. Which university was it?
So I'm a professor at Rutgers University in New Jersey.
Yep. And you completed your doctorate, you're a professor, and you're a planetary scientist, right?
Right.
And having you be that beacon of an intellectual scholar in that position, kind of gives hope for a lot of people, a lot of students. And maybe I'm just taking perspective of the people as an someone who just wants to pursue their education. As we all know, like Nepal is a third world country, and we have everybody has nobody has less determination. Everybody wants to pursue education. Everybody wants to do good in their life, and having a beacon of somebody successful somewhere in a matter of in a place where you would want to be someday. It's like finding some scientific discovery, or like trying to go be educated and be able to teach others and learn a lot of new things. Having you up there kind of gives hope to a lot of people. Even like for me, when you made a discovery, I'm like, wait a minute, that's awesome. That's like somebody stumbling upon like some kind of discovery. Even give like you and I are completely different. I have no idea about science. I'm not in science field at all. But because you discovered that, I got curious about Mars. I got curious about, oh, like the students could go and all this what do you call those, all the satellites and whatever, all of those information can actually be uh, like looked over by international students or like regular students.
Right.
You can actually have those data and interpret yourself. So that was kind of a touching moment for me. Is like anybody can do anything. It's, of course it's going to be super hard, but at least there's a way, and when there's a way, there people will try to walk that way.
Right. Like I want to be optimistic about all that, right? But I mean, I think we have this sort of like predetermined culturalism where if you are a boy or a girl that's growing up in Nepal right now, most of the time, like, the pressure is like, oh yeah, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be an engineer, you're going to make a lot of money, and you're going to take care of your family. I feel like this sort of individualism, which we find in the Western world. Like, and if you're in the Western world, if you're in Western Europe, if you're in the United States, most of the time, like, the parents let the kids decide their future, right? They could be an artist, they could be a musician, they could be a scientist, they could be a doctor. Doesn't matter. The parents say, you know what, find your passion and go follow that. But I think that's the one thing that's missing in our culture, is that we always put this like pressure on our kids to say, yeah, someone else's kid was this and that, so you got to do exactly what their kids did. You need to go to Bangladesh and get a MBBS degree in 5 years. You need to do this and that. And I think we put too much like cultural, I don't know, pressure on these kids.
Yeah.
And so they can't ever find passion. And like the kids who rebel and try to find passion, they are automatically classified as the rebels, and they're persecuted.
Yeah. I almost feel like the rebels are the one who makes the most discovery, because you think something.
Agree, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all my friends in high school, we're a bunch of rebels, right? And if I say so, yeah, I think like most of my friends in my high school, I mean, we're doing great. I mean, we're not all doing the same thing, but we're absolutely rebels. I mean, so the school that I went to, Galaxy, we have this classification of A student, B student, C student.
Oh yeah, that's a whole
right?
a blunder of, I don't know, mistake, but it's a place where you put up the students and you kind of classify them. You are stupid, you're smart, so like look at those smart people, be like them, like right from the tender age.
Oh yeah. And then the other thing is, like, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but when I was a student in my middle school, elementary school, is that the teachers would beat the shit out of you, for doing like a simple thing, saying like, sir, I don't understand this. Why is this that thing? Like, which is what you want from a curious scientist, like or like engineer to begin with, like, right? Like, and if you're a scientist, if you're an engineer, in your innate personality, you're going to say, why is it that way? And you would ask that, and you would get the shit beaten out of you.
Okay,
right?
like that gives me PTSD, but like anytime, like yeah, like we have been through PTSD from our childhood. Like everybody of us had been beaten the shit off, especially guys. The girls are relatively less beaten as a punishment, but the guys are like they're the trash can and they beat the music out of us.
Yeah. And I remember there was a time when I was interviewed by this national press thing in Nepal when I was there with my dad. and they asked me how my experience was. I was like, you know what, man, education was good. Like I met a lot of like great friends, and I had one of those like summer of '69 moments where like I think that part of my life in Nepal, being in like eighth, ninth grade, 10th grade, was the best time of my life. Absolutely, I would
Mm.
never take it back. But at the same time, there were so many asshole teachers that I was just like, yeah, if you're listening to this right now, screw you, man. You guys sucked. That's not
I
how you
have,
want to treat students. That's
yeah.
bullshit.
Like, have you ever been like you must have remembered, like, if you ask something that contradicts the teacher's way of teaching, you're
Yeah.
screwed up. You're like, you are stupid. You are the most stupid person in the whole
Yep.
class, and everybody
Yep.
will make fun of you. The teacher's gonna
Yep.
beat the crap out of you, and
Yep.
it has to be the teacher's way.
Yep.
Oh my
So
god.
yeah, I'm saying like bunch of Galaxy teachers, if you're listening to this, screw you guys. You guys sucked ass, man. You guys were not good teachers. You guys sucked. I don't know who made the teacher. You guys sucked. Jesus.
No.
It's
Uh,
it's just, and like now, like I was in Nepal in Dietary, and I saw these like, old like teachers beating the shit out of like, like students that were like 10, maybe 12 years old.
yeah,
What are you gonna get out of beating 10, 12-year-old kids?
and
Like,
that's
why is this
for
a
not,
cultural thing? Like,
yeah.
why are we still like, I know, like in Europe and America, in Asia, like in everywhere, like this used to be a thing, but they gave it up a long time ago. Why are we still doing this? Like, I know I have to go through that, but like, come on, let's move on from that. Let's make it a better culture for future students so they can be themselves. They can
Yeah,
be completely individual.
yeah, I don't know how much I've heard, like, it has decreased a lot compared to before, but like, if we really want to advocate for, like, okay, what's wrong with the system, let's just remember, like, back home, like, teachers would, like in Nepal, the teachers would be able to punish you physically. They could punish you with using poison ivy. Do you remember Sisnu? So they'll smack you with poison ivy, and they'll smack you with sticks, wires, and make you do physical, like push-ups with your knuckles, put pen between your fingers, and those were like
Yep.
common punishment. If you feel like you have all those, like, when you grow up, you have like a little bit of courage, little bit of rebellion, like everybody has that. And if you
Right.
feel like you want to be a leader, you have to have courage, right?
Right.
Any courage with the kids are absolutely taken as a bad thing. If you have
Yep.
courage, if you dare to speak up, you are like the rebel. Go. You are the worst kid in the class. You have to follow orders. You have to be a puppet. You have to have your brain be messed up with their hammer, and
Right.
like pretty much, like, you pass the exam. You doesn't matter if you know what we are teaching. I just want you to remember the words we're teaching, not the meaning, not its significance, just the words. And if you remember, like, basically we're kind of like, how do you say, made up to be a memory box. And once
Right.
you pass the
Oh yeah.
exam, yeah, if you
Right.
remember, like, once we pass the exam, within 2 months we forget every single thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I think you hit the nail, man. I mean, like a lot of the shit, like that system, like like Ivy plants and whatnot. That's that's what they do in Guantanamo Bay, by the way. And that's what we had to go through to just please a bunch of goddamn asshole teachers. And
And not all
then
teachers
we
are bad, but
no,
there were
no,
many.
absolutely not. No, like I had like a bunch of like amazing teachers in like
Yeah.
social studies, and like even my science teacher. I remember like I used to like play in a band even in Nepal, and there was this one time when we were like applying for this like like a what's called like a band, battle of the bands, and I remember like with my closest buddies in high school, um, going to this teacher and be like, yo, dude, like we don't have any money to apply for this. Can you give us some money? Like we'll pay you like in the next like month or so. Like we all get allowances, but like we don't have the money. And this guy, our science teacher in like 8th grade in Galaxy School, I forget his name now, but he was like the most awesome, like coolest guy. It's like, yeah, dude, like I want to support you. Like, yeah, I used to play in a band when I was a small kid too, like when I was a little kid too, like in here, like, and and he just took out like 3,000 rupees from his like wallet. Like at that time, okay,
Yeah.
3,000 rupees, that's a lot. And
That's
for
a
a
lot.
teacher to just like take it out of his wallet and be like,
So more
yo,
than
I
half his
told you
monthly
guys.
salary, probably.
Right, exactly, right. And so, yeah, there were some awesome teachers, but I think, the idea of education needs to be kind of transformed a little bit, where we need to let people discover their own passion. Like, and not everyone's going to be a lawyer, not everyone's going to be a doctor or a scientist. I mean, everyone's going to have their own passion. I think that this is a quote from Einstein to paraphrase, but basically, it's like if you have a fish and you judge a fish's ability by its ability to climb a tree,
Mm-hmm.
the fish is always going to live its life thinking it's an idiot because it can't climb a tree. Everyone has a different passion. Everyone has a different like innate sort of ability. And a fish is going to be amazing at like swimming in the ocean. A monkey is going to be great at climbing in the tree and
Mm-hmm.
right? So we need to appreciate that there's a diversity in knowledge. Just this idea of like, oh yeah, you need to do this and that in school. That's it's not sustainable.
Yeah, like the education system in a lot of, I guess, third world countries, we're talking about Nepal. I think that it have been changing, but it needs an absolute massive overall change in what you want to achieve. I think it's still, you call kitabi kita, like
Right,
everybody is like all the education you receive is basically to pass the exam, but not to get learned and be a
right,
scholar, like be a educated person, but rather to pass the exam. So the whole concept has to be modified or changed in some way.
right. Well, even like something like even mathematics, right?
Mhm.
If you look at the history of mathematics, like, and where are the greatest mathematicians born? In Germany, in Israel, in United States, and in even in India, for example, there was some
Mhm.
great like Subramanian Chandrasekhar,
Yeah,
for example, like after whom like Chandrasekhar limit in the black hole was named after, right?
yeah. I think his
Uh,
the movie is coming out basically on his thing.
is that right? Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah.
But no, I mean, there's there's
It's
beauty in
being played
mathematics.
by the guy who is in the life of, no, the, oh my god, how did I forget the Kaun Banega Kharojpati, like in the movie Who Wants to Be a
Um,
Millionaire?
uh, yeah.
So I think he's playing one of the mathematician from India.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
Okay,
like
yeah.
yeah, they have
Yeah, well, like if you remember our mathematics, right? It was like you had to remember every single line, and you would have to be like, therefore, this is this, and it was all a memorization. It wasn't,
memorization.
like
Yeah.
logic, and that's what mathematics is, right? Um, and I think we can do a better job, and I think every once in a while, like when I'm at the beach or something, I'm just like, man, what am I doing with my life? Like, why am I a professor at United States? I mean, my there's a bunch of other people that can do this job, but like, and I can go to Nepal and like, I don't know, fulfill a much more needed
Mm.
role. I should go back to Nepal and fill this role of like, I don't know, being an educator, or like, I don't know, like the romantic in me would say, oh yeah, I can go back to Nepal and be like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of the United States, or Neil deGrasse Tyson of Nepal, for the matter. But it's just, I don't know, interesting to me that we have all these famous people, but then when it comes to science world, when it comes to the people that have contributed most to the world society,
Mm.
we actually don't have a lot of people to talk about, right?
Yeah.
You go to Indians, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we had all these like scientists, like even like a Nobel Prize winning physicist, even Gandhi. You go to Pakistanis have shit ton of like scientists in math and science and physics. Then we come to Nepal, we don't have that many.
Yeah, like all of the, I guess the country itself, the education system kind of was blocked during, as you know, like during the Rana regime. So a lot of people
Right,
were uneducated. Like the government kind of stopped making people being educated. So that was like
right,
a really bad timing. But that definitely hampered a lot. But once the
right,
education started, it's basically like pass the exam, go on. Maybe there are researchers, there are probably a good number of them, but for how many people that can be, it's not there at all. Like there's rare occasional students coming from Nepal, or like people who are studying abroad like you, pop out of the crowd once a while with a better, like being an icon for other students. But like from the number of, just think like a number of people who come to United States from Nepal, and they seem to be achieving a lot in the IT field, the engineering field, mechanical engineering field, but they're not in the top of their game still. They're just basically trying to live their life, trying to get a job, and basically in the scientific world, they have not had that much of an impact.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. But my personal experience is that even if they were, the Nepalese government has done nothing to recognize them.
Yeah.
For example, so in Nepal, like in Kathmandu, there's this this scientific group called RONAST, right?
Ronas?
Yeah. Back in the day when we used to have monarchy, it was like Royal Nepal Academy of Science and Technology, but there's some hybrid of that. And like we have all these people all around the world outside of Nepal doing amazing things in science and technology. And like even when I like had done like a lot of work, I never got a single message. Like I got a message from the American Embassy in Nepal saying that, hey, we are American Embassy in Nepal, and we want to bring you out to Nepal to give a talk so the other Nepalese people can see that what's possible for Nepalese people. That doesn't matter where you're born, doesn't matter what you do, you can do whatever you want and you can do great things. I didn't get a single message from the Nepalese government. You would think, right, in a perfect world, you would think that the government of Nepal, if they're really proud of their friggin' people, and their people were somewhere outside, they would say, hey, this guy is great. Doesn't matter how great that person is, but like, this guy is great. Let's bring him back home where he's from so he can inspire some other people to go into the same field. You would think that would be a credible thing to do. Never happened.
Basically, I remember you did some kind of radio, TV interview with
right.
News Channel. So public, internally, not the government, but public who have some curiosity over like your achievements.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah, the public. Yeah, I mean, the public is great. I mean, that's the thing, right? I have a lot of like love and hate relationship with like the Nepalese way of doing things, and like I love all my friends in Nepal. I love all the public, but I goddamn hate the government. And that's what it is.
It definitely deserves your hate too. It has been absolutely a mess, and rightfully so. Like time and things change, but unfortunately for Nepal, it has not been so much in a positive way as we hope it would be. Maybe there is some positive light, but from everybody's reaction, from the people's like atmosphere there, nobody is happy with even a little bit of the government. And it has been changing, so we can only cross our finger and hope for the right thing. So I want to take a conversation a little bit on a little fun side. So as you know, you are teaching, you are a professor in the university teaching, like what are the different types of subjects that you teach?
So most of the classes that I teach are kind of like related to space. So I was teaching a class called Moons and Planets last semester, where it was all about moons and planets of the solar system, right? From anywhere from Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, all the way out, except Pluto.
Okay. Tell me about like, does the scientific community still hate and love and hate relationship with Pluto? Because I've heard a lot of different.
It's not so much of a love and hate relationship. I think it's been conflated way more than it should be. But I mean, the idea about Pluto is that if you were to accept Pluto as a planet, then you would have to accept, 30, 40, even 100 more bodies as a planet. Okay. And so what is the easiest thing to do? Either drop Pluto as a planet and then having 8 planets, or accepting Pluto as a planet, then introducing 100 more other bodies as planets. That was the only thing.
So other bodies, do they revolve around the same, like similar orbit, or absolutely not different orbit?
Oh yeah, all around. Yeah, some of these bodies, for example, Ceres and Vesta. I mean, there are big asteroids that are comparable to the size of Pluto. They orbit around the sun, and they have like similar body structure and everything. So it's either accepting them as bodies, accepting them as planets, or saying that they're not planets.
Okay,
that's the only thing. But I think it's interesting because if the planet Pluto, or the ex-planet Pluto, was called I don't know, Lujendra, no one would give a shit. I think everyone's giving a shit about Pluto because we used to watch this Disney cartoon called Pluto, like the dog of Goofy, and that's
Oh,
why
yeah.
everyone gives a shit, right? But otherwise, no one gives a shit. Like it's just a friggin'. I mean, even in the United States, 50% people don't believe that we ever actually landed on the moon. I mean, that's how much interest there is in astronomy and
Yeah.
space. So
Yeah,
it's
like the moon
conflicting.
landing has always been a part of the controversy, and even though it's like now with all the technology going on now, it seems like, oh, hopefully we'll be going to moon again, maybe
Right.
in less than like 5 years or so. They are definitely planning, what I've heard from the SpaceX team.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a controversy. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a lot of Nepalese friends, even like in people like, or like even American friends that are, engineers that are like well educated, and they still think that it's a conspiracy theory that we ever went to the moon.
Yeah, there's even
That's
conspiracy
complete
theory
bullshit.
about if the planet Earth is flat. So there's that.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, I can't please everyone. So
Yeah. And like, okay, you being like, you have all of those this kind of education, you teach class and so on, so given the like progress of the rockets from SpaceX and all of those progress enough, like we can go to, eventually we'll be going to the moon, but I think less than a decade from now we might have somebody be in the Mars.
right.
If there is chance, would you go, like from your perspective?
Um, yeah, I've been asked this question a lot of times before too, and I think it's fascinating. I think it is an innate thing in humans to explore, right? It's an innate desire to explore. I mean, so recently I did a DNA test to find out where my parents were from. Yeah,
Oh.
my dad, like I was telling you, he's like 6'5" tall. He just doesn't look like a Nepalese. And then when we did our genealogy test, turns out that most of my father's side of the family came from Kazakhstan, and they moved to Nepal like about like 5,000 years ago. And
Huh.
so, like I know that there is this blood there, that there's this gene of exploration in my body, and I think most humans are. I mean, we all came from Africa. We
Mhm.
started going all around. And so, if given the chance to go to Mars, I mean, heck yeah, why not? Why wouldn't you go?
Yeah.
What do
And
you have to lose? I mean, what a chance to explore, what a chance to educate yourself, what a chance to know. I mean, no one has ever done that. No one has ever done that. No one ever knows what happens. No one, no one knows what it's like to be on Mars. I mean, why not? Why
It's
would you
like
say no?
you seem super excited to go there. Like, okay, if I had a chance
I just
now.
don't understand people who are not excited about this. I think
Yeah.
that's what bugs me.
Yeah. Like one thing that boggles me about the whole space travel and about all of these rockets and so on, it's not even the explosion or so on. It's the speed that boggles me. Is like you're traveling with the speed of like the speed of the Earth rotation or more than that, so that you'll be equal speed with the what do you call
It's,
the?
it's way more than that, right? I mean,
It's way
you're
more than.
trying to travel 500, like like so. So there's this thing called escape speed. So if you want to
Yeah,
escape Earth's gravitation, you have to travel at like I think 640,000 miles per hour. So if you think you're driving in a car and you're driving at 60 miles per hour and you think you're driving too fast,
640,000 around there, miles an
that's the
hour.
escape
Just
speed,
imagine that
11
speed
kilometers per second. 11 kilometers per
per
second. So
second.
we're from Nepal, we're much more in tune with kilometers. So think about it. 11 kilometers per second is the minimum speed that you need to get off of the Earth to go to any other planet.
To have the escape velocity, so that the Earth
Escape
gravity will not
velocity.
pull you back. And
Right. But,
just thinking about that speed, you can just imagine, like we pretty much know, like the Earth revolves around the sun, but I've seen a lot of videos where the sun itself is also moving, and everything is moving. The whole solar system itself is moving. So the whole concept of what is in the exact position where there is no movement is also like a kind of, it becomes a theory. Is like everything is moving.
yeah, it's all relative motion. Yeah,
Relative
absolutely.
motion.
Yeah, it's all relative motion, right? I mean, the sun is not so much. as moving is that it fluctuates in its own space, and that's absolutely true. And for example, the moon. Every time you look at the moon in the sky, the moon is moving farther and farther and farther away from Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So about, I don't know, like I forget the exact number, but like it's either like within the next couple of tens of million years or a couple of 100 million years, the moon will actually get so far beyond Earth that it's actually going to escape from Earth, and it's not going to be gravitationally bound to the Earth. Same thing with the Earth, or same thing with the sun. This idea of habitability, like we are lucky enough that the Earth is at a proper distance from the sun where the temperature is good, that we have liquid water. 5 billion years from now, right, if humanity were to exist on Earth for that long time. Now, remember that the Earth, our best estimate that our Earth is about 4.5 billion years old, okay? So let's say for some miraculous reason that we live to 5 billion years more, okay? Then at that point, the sun is going to be so much bigger, so much more vast, so much more energetic that Earth, as we know, would be completely inhospitable. Our closest planet, Mercury, Venus, is going to be completely swallowed by Earth.
The sun itself is expanding, right?
Yep, exactly. And so this entire thing is that it's all about like space and time, man. And a couple give it like a couple 100 million years, a couple billion years. Yeah.
So we live like maybe 100. If the humans live for about 100 years, 100 years is like nothing. Like all of human civilization, the time period, we are just like nothing compared to the universe mass of time. Like everybody's So with all of these, thinking like we're in the peak of time where we think we are alone and we're exploring, we're having a lot of trouble just to explore to the Mars. Like, do you ever think like around all of those time in history, or even now, there are beside like humans, there are other life beings around the solar system or even beyond, like other universes?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, here's the thing, right? I just came back from the beach. And if you go to all the beaches that are in the world, so you've been to the beach, right? How many sands are there? There are infinite amount of sand in any beach.
More than I can count.
Now, put all those particles of sand in the beach together, right? And there are more stars in the universe than the number of sands you can find in every single beach in the world. Now, consider the fact that every single star that you see or that you haven't been able to see has a planet revolving around it. So just do a very, very, very simple probability mathematic exercise in your head. You don't need to be a mathematician, but think about how many stars are there? Hundreds of billions of stars. Now think about the fact that every single star that you see or not see has a planet around it. Now make a probability exercise saying that one of the planet out of 10, or one of the planet out of 9, or one of the planet out of 100, or one of the planet out of 1,000 has a life. Then the number you come out with that has life is staggering.
Probably infinite, if we can count.
I mean, it depends on all the parameters that you choose. And it's called, if people listening, they want to explore this equation, it's called Drake's equation. So Frank Drake is this like really famous scientist from Cornell University, and he has this thing called the Drake's equation. And so you can go in, you can put all the different parameters in Drake's equation, and you can come up with like a finite term. And it's, depending on what you put, again, it's anywhere from 0 to millions.
And that also depends
in my head. Sorry, go ahead.
No. That also depends on the time when say unicellular life starts, all the way to being multicellular and having living organisms and having a society, and the society be grown. That's that peak time is such a it just needs a little bit of time for all that to happen. So there's even say within our own universe, Milky Way galaxy, or not Milky Way galaxy, but overall our universe. So there might be there are pretty much infinite number of planets, and so I guess number of planets that might have support life itself, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
such a huge number. That's the mind-boggling part. Is like this. We just keep on saying the word infinite, but the word infinite is such a big number, and we just have to think like, is it do we really think we are able to decide like if there is not a life in another planet? And that would be kind of looking with a closed mind.
Yeah, there's a great um, thought exercise about this. It's called Fermi paradox. Okay, the Fermi paradox is that, well, if we're not alone, where the heck are all these people? We haven't seen them.
I've heard of that.
And if we're alone, what a freaking waste of space.
Yeah.
Because the space is vast, infinite. you know, yeah, and and I think at the end of the day, I mean, that questions like that is what keeps me motivated to do what the heck I'm doing.
Yeah, and like just thinking like okay, on Earth we have a carbon-based life form. Maybe we're thinking like, oh, other planets will have carbon-based, but maybe they don't, and maybe they don't breathe. Maybe they don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And in fact, there's a body called Titan, right? Kind of like the Titans, like the big Titan. It's a moon, right? Going around Saturn.
Oh, Saturn's
And
moon.
Johns
Okay.
Hopkins. Sorry, what?
Oh, I almost thought it was Jupiter's moon, but it's Saturn's moon. Okay.
Yeah. And from Johns Hopkins, there's going to be a mission going to Titan in, I think, about a couple of years from now. But it's called Dragonfly. But for the first time, they're going to fly a drone on another body. And so Titan is really special because, like you said, like it has methane water. It has like it doesn't have like a liquid water, like a liquid H2O, like water. But it actually has like methane and ethane and maybe some like nitrogen mixed in. And it's the only other body in the solar system that has any sort of like liquid agent. And for the first time, we're actually going to go there and fly drones. So the drones can fly from one place to another. And like, what a chance, man! I mean, what a
What
time
is
to
that
be alive.
drone made out of? Like, can you just imagine the atmosphere, like pressure and all of those hostility?
Yeah, the atmospheric pressure is pretty high, like much higher than Earth. And the drone, I don't know what the drone is made out of, but like, it's made from, it's being designed at Applied Physics Lab in Johns Hopkins, where I used to be. Yeah, it's crazy, but exactly like you said, yeah, like there's no reason for us to think that every life that we can conceive of has to be a carbon-based life. I mean, they could be, I don't know, silicon-based life for all that matters. It's just that that's all we know of. And so if you're making extrapolation based on kind of like these like Bayesian theorem paradigm, then you're going to think that it's some sort of carbon-based life.
And like even just thinking like, okay, carbon-based life, what we think is right now, like just thinking about Earth and us being like, okay, are there extraterrestrial life and other planets? Do you think there is now, right now, like maybe visiting that has visited Earth or might have visited Earth or might have existed in other planets, say Mars? Do you think of the possibilities of Mars ever having a life before?
I think it's very likely that a lot of the bodies may have had some sort of like prebiotic condition that allowed for maybe life to originate. But I think, if you look at Earth, for example, the oldest evidence of life that we find on Earth are these rocks in Australia, right? So the oldest evidence of life we have on Earth is about 3.8 billion years. So basically, it took us 3.8 billion years for microbial unicellular life to become what we are. Okay. And so I think it is possible that life originated at some other point, at some other space in the solar system. But I don't think there was enough time for life to have evolved to our condition, our like sort of like intelligible, like, species that are, designing rockets, that are designing radio telescopes and communicating with, the rest of the galaxy. I don't think there was any place else in the solar system that ever came even close to being able to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think like the time came out to be a factor? Like for
Absolutely.
the time, what do you call it, the lifetime of a planet from being a solid mass with an atmosphere or somewhat to being destroyed by a sun or other forces.
I don't think it's the being destroyed by the sun or anything. I think it's just, if you look at Venus, for example, right? Venus is much closer to the sun than the Earth, but 4 billion years ago, 4.5 billion years ago, when most planets formed, Venus would have been a much more habitable place than Earth. What happened with Venus over time was that there was like release of so much CO2 gas that it got really, really hot, and the surface temperature of Venus right now is like, several hundred degrees Fahrenheit. So the Russians were able to send a couple of like spacecraft that were able to go all the way down to the surface of Venus, but then it got destroyed within 45 minutes.
Whoa.
And so it doesn't even take, like 4.5 billion years old. Like things can go catastrophically wrong in a planet within a couple of 100 million years. And so I don't think, and so I don't think like stellar evolution, although it plays a role, it's not the thing. It's just that, all of these things are like stochastic in nature, and depending on where you are, what your planet is made up of, and what you put in your atmosphere. Like right now, when on Earth, we're putting a lot of like CO2, SO2, a lot of these like greenhouse gases, and do it long enough, and it's gonna bite us.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, like I heard like the Mars has pretty much Mars actually does not have a greenhouse gases, right? It kind of because of the lack of atmosphere, everything ran out.
It does. It's just like the atmospheric pressure is very low, so it does. I mean, it has a lot of CO2 in the atmosphere, but it's just because the pressure is so low that it doesn't have a big of an impact that it does on Earth, for example.
Okay. So just imagine like once we get like our astronauts in Mars, and they started digging up in the bottom, and imagine if there's a civilization inside the Mars. How would the world change in that second?
That's a very interesting question. Like, and first of all, like I don't think that we're ever gonna find life on Mars, right? That's my personal, I guess, scientific opinion. But secondly, like if that were to ever happen, how would life react? That's a fascinating question, isn't it?
It
like,
is.
What's gonna happen to all these people that are, so adamant about Earth being the only one that has life, or people that are super religious or super philosophical about, habitation, like that there being a single planet created by the Creator that has life. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean,
like, have you seen the video of I don't know if it's a NASA or some government agency kind of declassified about the UFO being captured, the film of UFO being captured by F-15, the fighter jet plane. Have you seen those videos?
Recently got released, yeah.
Yeah. So like they released it, and they pretty much kind of confirmed there is some kind of UFO phenomenon, and there has been some documented from a long time ago. I guess a lot of other countries are being a little bit open about releasing those. I'm not saying like I don't want you to make a prediction, but I want you to think like, if it's a fact, it became a fact, how would the society react?
I think first I would like to say that, it's the idea of Occam's razor, right? So anyone who hasn't heard of Occam's razor, I mean, it's a really like great metaphorical, like Greek metaphor. But, the point is that just because we're confounded by the complexity of the nature doesn't mean that we need to implicate some sort of extraterrestrial factor into play. I mean, there's all these people that are saying like, oh, the pyramids were so hard to build back in 6,000 years, 6,000 BC. So obviously the ancient aliens build the pyramids. So the same thing in like Machu Picchu in like South America, or like even if you were to go to like India and Nepal, there are all these old pyramids that people think were built by aliens because it's so hard to fathom people ever building that.
Yeah,
but
I'm actually really interested in those kind of research. Those are called alien astronaut theory. A lot of those.
Yeah, ancient aliens. Yeah. And it's completely, I mean, but my thing is like, just because you can't explain that doesn't mean that you have to invoke some sort of ancient aliens. And second of all right, so that's the first thing. But the second of all is that we know all these civilizations, they employed shit ton of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's so much slave action going on, and there's so much like technology that we have lost throughout the ages.
Mm-hmm.
And so just because we can't explain it, we can't say that it's aliens. That's a cop-out answer. It's one century's magic is another century's science.
Mm.
You know, and so just because we don't know it right now, how they exactly did it, doesn't mean that.
I really like your observation. One century's magic is another century's science. That kind of brings us to all of those theory about like, oh, it must be magic from even like I have a little bit few theories on those, but I've been doing a little like I was really enthusiastic with the UFOs research and so on. So with regarding to even the religion, like our Hindu religion is really fascinating in that sense, because we don't the Hindu religion kind of feels really alien to a lot of people, and the mythology and all of those feels really I think it might have happened. You know, this our like a Hindu religion itself is really not based on like just teaching, but it's more based on stories, like from a long time ago. Maybe it happened. Maybe everything looks fake. Like maybe there was a part of the world where the civilization got lost, and they thought it was magic, and now we're just like, it must have happened or something. Stories. So it just became a folk tale. Like. Does your like viewpoint kind of opens up for those kind of possibilities that maybe there was a civilization that was lost?
Yeah, there could be. Yeah, I mean, there's no way I'm gonna say that. Yeah, that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think like given like the age of the universe, I'm sure that I'm not arrogant about that, and I would say that yeah, sure, there's a possibility of that. Um, and I grew up in a very very like strict Hindu environment. Like my dad's, even like to this day, my dad like like goes and prays at like 6 a.m. Whereas like the like says like stuff in Sanskrit. When I first came to the United States, I was really big into like Eastern philosophy, so much so that I started this band called like Vedas, and like I was the only brown kid, and it's like American band, bunch of these like Mexican dudes, like white dudes, and I was like the only like brown dude, and I would like sing in Sanskrit, right? And so like I know my Veda, I know my Sanskrit very well, and I know this Eastern philosophy very well, and I think over time when I grew up, I was just like, this is bullshit, and like I just like grew out of it, right? I think with every religion, every philosophy, there are great things to be gleaned from the Eastern religion. But I think quintessentially, I mean, the main problem is obviously the fact that we have this immense amount of like classism system, like the Brahmins versus like the Shudras versus like there's this classism, this caste system, right? And I in my world, it just didn't make sense that if there was this all-knowing, all-loving, benevolent, omniscient, omnivalent being called God, that he would design a religion that is so fraught with fallacy that there would be this rampant racism and classism. I don't believe in that. And so when I came to that realization, I think around like 17 or 18, I remember being outside of my house. I said, I'm going to renounce my religion. I'm not Hindu anymore. And so I renounced my religion, and I said, I'm going to go live my life without this religion.
Yeah, like for a lot of those people, like a lot of us, whenever we face like the religion and all of the bad part of it, and we're just said to be accepted, and we're like, no, we can't accept it. And for you, like you decided like, okay, the religion is not for me. For me, it has been like, I don't care about whatever they say. I take the stories and see if there are good parts of it, and rest of it, I'm just gonna denounce the people. As I don't care about all of those rules or all of those messages if they are bad. So I make my own judgment. I'll put like there are many good things in those and good teachings. Maybe I'll learn from it. Yeah.
But it's
And
kind
that,
of like
yeah,
saying that Mein Kampf is good because there are some good things in Mein Kampf because Hitler cared for the German people, but he
yeah,
didn't care about people that were not German in heritage, right? It's kind of bullshit in that way that there's a complete logical fallacy in that you're saying that I'm going to take the good parts out of it and ignore the bad parts. I'm going to take all the good parts that says I am good and like this is good. But oh yeah, when they say that black people are bad or brown people are bad or what else, oh, I'm just going to ignore it. That is the fucking rise of white supremacy. I mean, this is exactly the thing. And like, I think being an educator, like this is the thing that I want to point out that is that in philosophy, this is a complete logical fallacy. You can't do that. If you think that something is like this, if you think that a philosophy, a piece of philosophy in your life is from a divine being, you don't have the choice to say it's this is good and this is bad, so I'm going to ignore this, I'm going to accept this.
yeah.
It's
But
either
like,
one for all or all for nothing, right?
yeah, almost like well, I get your point. For me, it has been like all of those bad things are like those things are made by people. So there are many people who
Absolutely
made
not.
it, right? I mean,
It's absolutely not. Like Sati Prabha is like written in the books. It's not
yeah,
made by
the
humans.
books were written by people, though. That's where like
And
I'm like,
then
I don't care about.
how can you say that some part of the book were divinely?
I'm not saying divine, but I'm just saying there are maybe like 1,000 deities, and we have like millions of deities.
What I'm saying is that when an educated person like you does that, then a bunch of other uneducated people will say that everything is divine and they're going to exploit other people. You
Yeah.
are educated. You can say what is right, what is wrong, and you can say, oh, yeah, I still believe in this. But when other people that don't have the same conscience as you, who can say this is right, this is wrong, and they choose that, they can say this is a divine thing. I come from like the most remote part of Nepal, and like when I went to Dietary, there were people that were like calling me masters, and they were bowing down to touch my legs because they were like, oh yeah, like we were taught to do this. But what I'm saying, like us being a new generation, like we need to be like a little bit more cognizant of just saying, oh yeah, this is good, this is bad, I'm gonna choose this as good and this is bad. That's irresponsible.
Yeah, almost like well, I guess I take it a little bit differently in the sense like, say there are book of libraries, right? In the library there are many good books and there are many bad books. That doesn't mean I reject the library. It just means for me is like I got to be in a mental conscious saying I got to decide by myself which book is good or which book is bad, and that's my perspective.
But that's the thing, is that it's not a different book. It's all in one single book. There are 10 different chapters. It's a single book called Hinduism. It's one single book called religion. It's one single book called like the Eastern philosophy. And you don't have the choice of choosing 10 different books. It is one book.
Yeah, I mean, I I don't know who
Right.
wrote that book. That's a really stupid person. Like, I mean, to be, really be accepting.
No, but
Like,
I'm not attacking your like
no,
stance
no,
in
no, I'm not.
religion or anything. Like I think like that's fine. Like, and we like if anything, I'm a minority that I'm an atheist, right? Like very few people are atheists than people who are religious. So it
I'm
is
not
not
even
my intent
religious.
to,
I'm just saying, like, maybe
right.
the book, whoever wrote that book, whoever said, like, all the writers, they are human beings, and as we see, like in our life experience, they got it from somewhere. Maybe the 10th generation down, they wrote it. They might have put good stuff in it, they might have put bad stuff in it, and we as an individual, when we grow up, and we gotta be learned, so we have to be educated ourselves to be able to judge that. So maybe there
I
are
think you
things.
put too much faith in humanity. I think
I
humanity is
guess I
not that
do.
smart, man. We
Yeah.
are we are the product of our upbringing. I mean, we are going to believe in things that we want to believe in, and we're going to negate things that we don't believe in. I mean, it's like if Germany had won the World War II, then 10 generations down from World War II,
Yeah.
people will be like, oh yeah, the Germans back in the 1940s, they wrote these things about white supremacy and Nazism, and
Just
of course
think about it.
it
Like
is fake.
Nepal, like the way Nepal was formed was Prithvi Shah, a
Right,
ruler, invaded the smaller countries and took over,
right.
and he won. So the history was written in the winner's perspective. And then we are like, oh, yay, Prithvi Shah. And then just imagine the countries that he invaded, how much cruelty that had been over there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely, I agree.
yeah.
But I'm saying like there's one thing to be said about like winning in war versus like complete genocide of 10
Mhm.
million Jews
Yeah.
and people who are trans and lesbians and gays and bis. It's a completely different
Yeah,
playing field.
it's a genocide,
It's
and there's no.
genocide versus conquest. I mean, that's what Genghis Khan did. If you look at the biggest empire ever formulated, ever like made, it wasn't the Roman Empire. It was
Mongolia,
Genghis Khan, Mongolia.
Genghis Khan.
And even right now, if
Yeah.
you're from Mongolian descent, even in our Nepal, like people who are Rai, Gurungs, and whatnot, 25% of people who have any sort of Asian genes are related to Genghis Khan directly because he
Yeah.
raped and pillaged so much,
Like
right?
I heard, like he had 10,000 wives.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Probably 10,000 wives are like probably more that he conceived with. Yeah,
Yeah.
but like I don't know. I just like I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Throughout
understand like
history.
like my mom and my dad and my sister and like everyone in my family, they're like, oh yeah, like we need to uphold traditions and everything. I was like, this is
No.
kind of bullshit. I don't believe in this shit. Like
So,
there's got to be right and wrong, man. Like someone's got to stand up for it.
hmm.
Everyone wants to believe in their like heritage and culture and everything, but like, man, like some of this shit were bad, like super bad, super bad. Like, so much racism, so much casteism, so much like these like misogynistic, like like we're from Nepal. Like every time a woman has a period, she has to go like spend time by herself. Like,
Hmm.
how is this modern world? How is this like modern
And
like
modern,
being
and
inspired
it's
by
happening right
divine
now.
being?
That's the thing. It's like it's happening right now, and the people are trying to get them educated. Have you ever seen, Rais Hamal? Like he went.
Right,
I've seen his video. He went to try to get a low caste guy, like a person, and he tried to have the villagers convinced that even though he's low caste, he can still drink water from the well, and he
right.
was not being able to educate the people, even though the people took Rajesh Hamal as one of the top actors, like a god. They really praised him. They wanted to take photo with him,
Right.
but they did not listen to him.
Right.
And just thinking, like in a modern society, that happens right in front of your eyes. And in those time, like the way I guess the Hinduism, everything was written, the influence should have been so bad in those criteria of like all of those things you explained.
Yeah.
For
So
my
I don't
the
think
way
it's a divine thing.
yeah, I take it. I take it as like there's nothing divine. The god or whatever. I think those are stories. Maybe there were good people, maybe there were bad people. They are just stories. That's how I take it. Like stories.
Right.
Uh, I almost like I stopped like this is more of my personal growth is like I whenever there's like you bow to your elders. Like I always bow to my elders if need
Right.
be. Like depends on there. But I
Right.
stopped bowing to the gods. I'm like, if my personal perspective was like, I'm gonna bow to gods if it is necessary in specific place, but I'm not gonna beg to get higher grades. I'm not gonna beg or bow to the gods to get something out of return. And that has been my growth. Is like that's not me. Like if somebody was a god, if they say there's a divine being, why would he want somebody else to bow in front of him? That's so bad.
Yeah. And you've been to Manakamna, right?
Yeah.
I went there once when I was there. And the most fascinating thing for me was uh, people from all around the world, not just Nepal, even Indians and like other people. They would come there and they would sacrifice animals, goats, chickens, ducks, whatever
Yeah.
they can afford, to ask for something in return. Like maybe it's a visa to United States, maybe it's a visa to Australia. So much so that in South India
Bribing.
there's an
They're bribing God.
actual temple called Visa Temple. Did you
I did
know?
not know
I
that.
just like recently like watched this Netflix series about this. There's a Visa Temple, and like, wait. So apparently this goddess came out of nowhere, and it started granting visa to people who came there and started venerating this goddess. And so now it's called a Visa Goddess. Like I'm not making this shit up, right? And so kill a goat, you get your girlfriend, and go to Visa Temple and sacrifice a goat, and then you get a visa to go to the United States. Like, how bored are these gods?
And
Jesus Christ.
not just God, like the people's perspective is like
Yeah,
you're basically bribing the deity. You're bribing.
right. But it's not even bribing. It's just like complete.
plus
Both of them.
sacrifice. Sacrifice itself is such a like a how do you barbaric tradition that we have, and you're using the barbaric nature of the sacrifice to get something in return while doing it in front of a god that you think is a peace and harmony. That's what they preach, and
Right.
you're being a complete hypocrite, trying to do complete opposite of what the teaching is. Say even our gods, there are different teachings, but you are basically doing an act of a devil to please a god to get something in return, and
Yeah.
nothing makes sense. And
Yep.
if your things if your all your wishes comes true, you're going to do that again and again. But if it
Oh yeah.
doesn't come true, you'll
Right.
be like, maybe next god.
Right. Right. Yeah. I remember, like I don't know, maybe you were like too small to remember this, but when King Birendra died, in our like Nepal TV and TV,
Yeah, I
there
remember
used to
those.
be this song that used to play constantly. Chaurasi lakh junima kati kasta pae aya manusya jivanma punya kamalai, right? Which in English basically means like I lived 84 million lives and I suffer so much and I came in human life to do something good. And I always like find it fascinating that these people, the so-called people that went through 84 million lives in the Hindu sort of like philosophy to become human again, and then they're sacrificing animals that are apparently human beings from a different reincarnation, and they're killing them to please a god for their own betterment. I never understood that.
Yeah.
It was really fascinating to me, and like I think, I don't know if you remember this, but like when the whole like Royal massacre happened, like everything shut down, right?
Mhm.
The king was dead, the queen was dead, the prince was dead. Well, the prince was in coma.
The second
Everything
prince
was.
was dead.
Sorry, what?
The second prince.
Yeah, the second, yeah, but like the entire country wasn't locked down, and I remember I was like maybe like 11, 12 at that time, and it was one of the most like the weirdest time where like the entire country shut down. It was like a national mourning, and I like personally I've never gone through death in my family or relative. I've never had to experience death, thankfully, so I don't know what that is like. But that was my first experience, like like going through death. I was like, holy shit, this is bad. And then like listening to that song over and over and over again, I mean, it's just like, it was weird. And then going to temples, like after 14, 15 days when it was like lifted and people were sacrificing animals, I was like, wait, it could be the king. I mean, he just got reincarnated, right? Like when all these like royal families just got reincarnated. Like who's to say what all these royal families are gonna be? Like, why would you sacrifice the goat? Why would you sacrifice the chicken? Like it could be anyone. Like you just like mourn for like a year, like for like a month, and now you're killing the animals again. It just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I guess the tradition of sacrificing. Of course, we're all guilty of eating meat one way or another. We're, I guess, aiding the sacrifice of some animals, but it's different when you like sacrifice the animal to eat, and it's different when you sacrifice animals to gain something out in return. They just sacrifice. They chop the head, let them go, and just watch them bleed, and you're just like, oh, it makes some deity happy. That's such an evil in itself.
Yeah.
There's some kind of evil that I've always felt uncomfortable, like seeing somebody's death. But you can understand, like as a human being omnivorous, we eat like both like plants and animals, and
Oh
we
yeah.
have that. Everybody feels a little bit guilty, like even though meat is really good. But you feel like, I wish like we didn't have to eat meat, or maybe it's good, but you didn't have to. You didn't
Yeah,
have to
I'm
see
a
the
complete.
sacrifice.
Dude, I'm a complete hypocrite. Like, I've killed like a bunch of goats in my time, right? When I was in Nepal, like I've killed like a bunch of like chicken and goats, and I didn't think second of that. Like here, like, and I eat like any meat. Like I just had
Yeah.
alligator, for example. Like alligator. How many people eat alligator? Like I just had like alligator steak.
Yeah.
You know,
But it's different when you
it's just
eat it. Like well, in my perspective, it's like it's different when you eat it, but it's different when you sacrifice in the name of some deity. And it's like
right.
like the deity is supposed to not be like, I don't know, the deity is supposed to be divine and good, all of the good and the blessing. If you think that it's there, the blessing is not going to come from taking a life of some innocent animal. if you eat it, that's a noble cause for you to survive. But it's for just the reason of bribing something and doing a sacrifice that gives you like such a odd, that completely is like opposite of what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, no, and it's it's also true. Like with people that are just like, oh yeah, I can eat. In Kathmandu, for example, like the Brahmins, they will say, oh yeah, eating goat every single day is fine, but eating buffalo, that's bad. Only the Newas do that. Bones, they don't do that. I was like, that's bullshit. You're eating meat.
Yeah,
It
like
just never made sense to me. I've always been, I don't
one
know,
of the
rebel.
animal I
Like
feel
I
the
still
worst
don't
about.
understand that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What you were saying?
No, I was just saying, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You're eating some other life. You're eating life.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
one of the
Doesn't
worst.
make better if you're eating goat or sheep or lamb or a buffalo
Yeah.
or chicken or a cow for that matter. Man, either you're a vegetarian or you're not. That's it.
Yeah.
You're taking life.
Like, do you know, like, you remember water buffalo, like momo, the main ingredient of momo, water buffalo.
Exactly.
I feel bad for the water buffalo the most in Nepal because they are treated such a bad way. That's the only animal that you make milk of, use for leather, use for meat, and literally no place in the gods except like it's supposed to be one of the gods of the
Yamaraz.
Yamaraz's vehicle.
Yep.
But nobody respects him that well. But the buffalo feels
Unless they're dying.
most
Yeah.
neglected animal.
Yeah, no, it's a complete atrocity, man. I mean, that's what that. I think there's good in like a lot of philosophy, but like I think like I'm a complete pessimist, right? I mean, some people see like a glass with a half water and they say, "Oh yeah, there's half water." I say it's half empty. I am completely negative about most humans, and I think like most humans are kind of like assholes.
Yeah.
And and when I see like these things happen, I was just like, yeah, man. I mean, it's an atrocity committed by humans. I mean, even in the United States, I mean, you can go to a supermarket to buy chicken, and then you see these like PETA videos about how they treat chickens here, right? Like bound in cages, they can't move at all. It's complete animal torture, and we know we all know this, and we're still like, oh yeah, but it tastes good, so we're gonna eat it. And it's just I don't know. I mean, it's just
like
we're terrible people, man. We're terrible.
This reminded me, it's like the United States and Nepal has a completely different the people of the United States never even seen a live animal, how the actual manufacture has occurred.
Right.
They've never seen like a food they eat being chopped off.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. Yep. And
I was just curious, like I just remembered something. You gave a TED Talks like a long time ago. I saw you in TED Talks video. Like how did that start? Like, did they approach you?
Yeah, they approached me and they were like, "Hey man, you want to come down to India and give a TED Talk?" And I was like,
"Wait, in India?"
Sure. Yeah, so it was in Delhi, Mumbai. I forget. It was a long time ago. And so they invited me, and they, for me at that time was like, you want to buy me like a first class ticket and put me in Taj Mahal Hotel? Like,
oh,
why not? Yeah. So I remember going to the airport and like some poor guy at like 3 a.m. had my name, and there was like a BMW waiting for me. And I was like, dude, I come from Nepal. Like, I grew up in like a relatively wealthy family, but still, this is like way beyond anything I grew up with. So I was like, yeah, put me in a Taj Mahal hotel with a BMW, like taking me around. Yeah, sure. Like, this is awesome. And then I went there and I gave a talk. And like, I remember this one time, they all thought that I couldn't understand Hindi, for example, for the story. And like I'm very fluent in Nepalese and Hindi. Like I grew up like talking in Hindi or Nepalese, but like I also like watched a lot of Bollywood movies, so like I know Hindi very well. But I kind of wanted to play this like practical game, so like I didn't tell them that I understood Hindi, right? And so the entire time I didn't tell them that I spoke Hindi or like understood Hindi. And so they took me around and they put me in this hotel, and then they were like, "Hey, tomorrow we're going to go to this like, slum village so you can see what India is like. Well, would you like to come? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I lived right next to like Bagmati River. I've seen slums all my life. What I haven't seen is a 5-star hotel. So I'm going to spend my time in a 5-star hotel. All the other white people can go to the slum. I've seen that shit my entire life. So I just stayed in the hotel, had a great time, went and give a TED talk and everything. And the most fascinating thing for me was some of the girls saying that, oh yeah, he is good looking, but he's what's up with the beard? So
Oh, they were talking in Hindi.
Oh yeah, they were talking in Hindi, like thinking that I didn't understand Hindi. And then at the end of the conference, I was like, by the way, I know Hindi very well, and like, I don't know, man, beer, it's great. I'm neither a woman nor a child. I'm a man. If there's a God, God gave this to me. You guys believe in God, so here's God's wish fulfillment. What are you gonna do?
So your
So
beard kind of challenges Ramdev.
Oh yeah, I mean the beer when I had there wasn't this long either. It was pretty small, but like that's the only like chit chat that I heard. They were like, "Oh yeah, he's good looking, but like, why does he have a beard?" Like, yeah.
Of all the concern, all of the information you gave, their eyes were stuck in your beard.
Yeah, in Nepali we have this phrase, "Mera bari, dunya lakina bari." Yeah.
And then, like during those TED talks, I remember you talked a lot about like Mars and so on, like all of your research. Did you ever publish any of your own research papers?
During that time, or what do you mean?
Or like throughout your educational time?
Yeah, so like throughout my educational time, so since I was undergrad in U of A till now, I've published like over 50 papers.
Oh, over 50.
Yeah, and it just happens to be that the people that know me mostly for is the water, Mars kind of stuff. But like I published paper on Earth. My dad grew up in Sudur Pasimanchal, like the far west place in Nepal. So me and my dad actually published our paper together, Ojha and Ojha, 2019, about like what's happening to the Himalayas because of global warming, right? No one cares about that. No one cares about global warming. We're all driving our SUV in 4x4. And published papers on the moon, on asteroids, on moons of Jupiter. Basically, published like papers all around the solar system. And I think, most people don't care about any of that. I think even with Nepalese people, like when I go to Nepal, they're like, oh yeah, you're this like Mars guy. And that's it. They don't know what I did. They don't know where I worked in.
Are those paper like
but it's like, oh yeah, you're just like a Nepal Mars guy. That's it. That's where it ends.
Yeah.
But
are these papers
if you were to look at my CV,
oh, my bad, sorry.
Sorry, what again?
Are your paper online somewhere we can access, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you go to my website, lujendraojha.com, you can find all the papers. You can find all my music. I'm not a great music player, but I used to play in a heavy metal band back in the day, and I still do with like a couple of my friends. And like, it's we're not gonna be 1970 or 80. We're not gonna be Nepal. We're not even close to that. But we still screw around, play music. Yeah, life's short. You got to do all the things you can do.
Definitely, yeah. Like are those like papers being like, if people wants to know about your study or your researches, they can find it on your website, as you said, lujendraojha.com?
Yep, absolutely.
And
yep.
Like, are those free, or are those should you be subscribed to it?
Some of them are, some of them are not. And if anyone wants to get a copy of the paper, they can always send me an email. I can always send them a copy of the paper.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, we had like a really lot of interesting conversation today, and we jumped all of the topics. And as I thought we would be like, I never thought we would be talking about religion and our school days, but it was really fun having you in my podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it was I don't know, a lot of conversation about a lot of things I think about, a lot of things that I think are important, and the people that are listening to whoever is, I think these are things that You may or may not agree with me, but I think these are important things to think about.
It's always good to have a discussion, and it's always good to
Yeah.
talk with people. And that's why
Right.
I have you as my guest, and I really enjoyed our conversation today. And for all our viewers who wants to know a little bit more about Dr. Lujendra Ojha, please do follow him on his website, lujendraojha.com. And please do, if you have a scientific, if you are interested in his work, do take paper. If you want to contact him, email him, and it would be really fun conversation if you could get in contact with him. And I'd really enjoyed our time, and I feel like my IQ level went up a lot with having a little bit of conversation with you. So that's why you are one of my icon too.
That means a lot. Thanks, man.
Thank
That's
you
good.
so much. Yeah.
It was great. It was great having you. I think you did a great job. Yeah, it's a great podcast, and yeah, and anyone who is listening, they can always contact me. I'm always happy to talk about science and
Awesome.
everything else.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you so
yeah,
much. So hopefully
thanks for having me.
we'll have you another podcast someday again, but take care so much. Thank you.
All right.